Manchester United have their first preliminary bid for Raphael Varane rejected as they try to include a deal with Paul Pogba, according to sources this afternoon. Chelsea have found themselves a plan B and an alternative to their Haaland pursuit. And Arsenal are again linked with a high-quality player this afternoon in Andre Silva. All that, the build-up to the England game, and much, much more. Smash that like button. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to the Terrace. Make sure you've smashed the living daylights out of that like button, retweet button, the follow button, the subscribe button, whatever platform you're watching us on this afternoon. We're closing in on 200,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is absolutely amazing. So make sure you've subscribed and you've turned on the bell notifications as well. We will be previewing the England game a little bit later. We're going to be joined by Tom from Gooner Talk TV at around 5 p.m. to go through the Arsenal news in a little bit more detail. But reports this afternoon that Manchester United have had an approach or a bid. The semantics are going to come in here at some play, but they've had an offer rejected for Raphael Varane. This has been reported by Mark Taylor from the Mirror this afternoon. I want to delve into this in a bit more detail because actually a lot of transfers may be proposed this way due to COVID issues, money still being a bit of an issue for a lot of clubs. So we're going to delve into that in a bit more detail. We're going to look at Chelsea's supposed plan B for Haaland and maybe an approach for the Villarreal striker Gerard Moreno. I want to gauge Chelsea fans' opinion on that as a deal. I want your thoughts and I want your feelings. And Arsenal, this morning, big links right here live on the Football Terrace and, of course, via Eurosport as well with Dean Jones of Sterling and Riyad Mahrez's inquiries. And then later today, it is now reported that Arsenal have made, again, some preliminary contact with the representatives of Andre Silva, looking to bring him from the Bundesliga to Arsenal next year. They're trying to see what they can do in that kind of space as well. We're going to be taking your calls on all of this. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you're feeling about these rumors. You might think they're absolute nonsense. You might want to say they're absolute nonsense and you want to play them down. You might think there's an air of credibility to them, or you can see how they could go ahead and happen. That's what we're here for you, the fans. Let's jump into some of your live comments. First of all, Jonathan Reed here says, we will end up with Mings for centre-back. For right wing, we'll end up with an unknown. This could be a terrible window. I really feel it. Man United, he didn't Villa outbid us. I don't know what that means, my guy. I don't know what that means. Oh, you're responding to somebody on that. Oh, okay. Sorry, I hear you on that now. Where are the members at today? Where are my members at today? Normally I see lots of member chats by now, not so many coming through. Hakimi news. The Hakimi news came out this morning. Watch the Done Deal show. Very intriguing insight from Dean Jones in relation to that. He still believes that Chelsea in a very commanding position, and a lot of that is due to you having Marcos Alonso as part of this deal. Inter Milan are massively keen to take him to the San Siro this summer. They're very, very keen for that. Jake here says, I'm still confident we can get Haaland, and you may very well be. So let's delve into these stories in a little bit more detail. We're going to open up the lines for you to phone in very, very soon and have your say. Still, what are we sitting on now? 7. Come on, let's get this past 500 likes while we're on the air, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get that done. Let's get that done for the Terrace right about now. So let's take a look at the Man United deal first of all. Raphael Varane. Now, what's been reported this afternoon is that Real Madrid have reportedly rejected an offer from Manchester United for Raphael Varane that included a swap deal for Paul Pogba. Something that's been reported by a lot of transfer experts over the course of the summer is we know that swap deals are very, very hard, notoriously difficult to get done. But it does appear to be a little bit more appetite this summer for clubs to do this because clubs have less physical cash. They don't want to commit, especially a lot of the European clubs, they don't want to commit to outgoings of cash per se. So if they can work on swap deals, one asset for another, from a cash standpoint, that makes a lot more sense. Manchester United have tested the water. So first of all, I would say this to Man United fans. Do not be put off. Do not think because a bid's been rejected, United are not going to go back in any other way, shape, or form. The bid hasn't been turned down because the offer from Manchester United is a bad one. The offer hasn't been turned down because Villarreal, because Real Madrid are not up for selling Raphael Varane. And it isn't even that they're not admirers of Paul Pogba that's been offered as a potential swap deal. One, it's preliminary. Man United haven't made this an official offer. They're not going to make it an official offer until they know exactly what Paul Pogba wants to do. But this is about getting your ducks in a row. They've made the inquiry to say, would a swap deal for Paul Pogba, for Raphael Varane interest Real Madrid? Real Madrid have essentially said no, and it's all based on the fact that they are trying to raise money as best they can to land Kylian Mbappe or Haaland this summer. They still have ideals on getting those jobs done. Again, neither of those transfers will happen until after the Euros ends. They just simply cannot. There's too much riding on them. They're too difficult to get done at this moment and at this situation. So as it stands right now, it's very we've had a lot of rumors about a potential swap deal for Pogba and Raphael Varane. It isn't the player that Real Madrid have the issue with. It's the amount of wages that Paul Pogba is demanding. Over £400,000 a week he wants, whether he re-signs at Man United, joins Juve, joins Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain. Due to the lack of cash at Real Madrid, they know signing Paul Pogba, that mass increase in salary, of course, they've got to replace Sergio Ramos and Raphael Varane if they leave. So that's going to be a massive outgoing for the club as well, both in terms of transfer fees and wages. They're simply not looking to do it. The encouraging sign here for Manchester United fans is the fact that they've met with Raphael Varane representatives and they've started to sound out ways of getting this deal done. Man United don't want to pay the £80 million quoted price from Real Madrid. They're saying it's going to cost £80 million to take him away from the Bernabeu. United don't really want to go above 35 to 40 million pounds for him. You then move across to a different Spanish team at Villarreal, and there is a 65 million euro buyout clause for Pau Torres. This is something Manchester United have all been looking at for many, many months now and could also revert to. So United are looking to bring in a new centre-back this summer. So far, the situation looks pretty promising in terms of the level of personnel that Man United are looking at. And one thing's for sure, every single expert I'm speaking to at the moment is relaying the same information. Man United's tactics and approach this summer is a vast improvement of what we've seen in recent years under the stewardship and guidance of Woodward and Matt Judge. It does appear that the Myrtles and the Fletchers are building up much better relationships, getting on with rival clubs in a better way, and thinking outside the box of ways of getting deals done in this very, very difficult climate. So it isn't great news that the initial bid, the initial offer has been rejected, but it shows Man United are trying to work on things. And it isn't a rejection because Varane isn't available. It's purely a rejection because of other areas that Real Madrid want to spend their money on. I want to know what you think and feel in relation to Raphael Varane and Pau Torres. That's the big question we're going to put into the voting section first of all. We're going to do a few polls while we're live on the air today. And the first one that I want to put in is quite simply that. How do I word this? Who would you sign first? Varane or Torres? That is going to be the poll today. That's going to be the poll today. Who would you go for? Raphael Varane or Torres? Vote and then leave in the comments section why you would make that decision. I am legitimately intrigued to know why. That's the first poll that we're putting out there for you today, for you to tell us what you think and feel. Let's get to some of your comments on this. Stefan says the Glazers really made you believe they were about to sign Raphael Varane. These frauds, it won't change, mate. We're done. Let's see what they can do. Let's see what they can do first. Are they going to spend £80 million on Raphael Varane? No. Most industry experts think that Raphael Varane could be picked up for a fraction of that price, between 40 and 50 million pounds. Can Man United get that done? Of course they can. The one thing about the Glazers is they're not immune to signing star names. That's something they've done in abundance before. So I don't look at that as I don't look at it as an improbable deal or an impossible deal. Improbable, maybe hard to get. Depends who else goes in for him. Because if Chelsea go in, I'm not confident we can land him over Chelsea. Paris Saint-Germain are going to be front runners, but Man United are doing the right thing at this moment in time. The number one priority for many, many months has been Pau Torres, but a better centre-back has become available in Raphael Varane. The fact that both players are at the Euros gives Manchester United a nice amount of time to talk to representatives, make inroads into the football clubs, and work out what they need to do. There's no doubt it's the right thing to do at this time. Comment here says, total rubbish, Terry. Why would the club offer Pogba when they're going to hold talks with Raiola? Because that might become an option. And Man United have got to look at all their different contingencies. So we have to plan for life without Paul Pogba because he may decide to go. So it's looking at Paul Pogba as an asset and how best to use him. Man United will already be speaking to clubs as to whether or not they're interested in actually taking Paul Pogba away. Man United will have a plan of action to replace Paul Pogba in one way, shape or form. If he signs a new deal, that all gets scrapped. But to not make any plans, to not make any contingencies, that's the crime. That's the poor running of the football club. There's no doubt about it. And remember, I call all these things bids because I can't be bothered with the semantics of it. But it isn't an official offer. So officially, nothing's been rejected, but it's been sounded in. And Real Madrid have said no. So what they know right now is a swap deal at this moment in time is off the cards. That's essentially what that means. We have a super chat that's come through here from my guy, Ginger Fury. He says, what's your view on Torres? I think people are quick to judge, calling him another Lindelof. I personally like him. Look, I've only seen him play a handful of times, so I'm not the most knowledgeable. I don't know the most about him, but I'm encouraged by what I've seen. I've been very, very encouraged by what I've seen from him as a player. He's got age on his side as well when you compare him to other centre-backs we've been linked with in recent years, i.e. someone like Koulibaly. So I am very, very intrigued by him. And look, I'm putting faith in the new way that we're looking to try and buy players. The majority of signings in recent years have been pretty good. Even last year, I kicked off about Cavani and Telles being last minute, and they turned out to be impeccable signings. Not so much for Telles what he did on the pitch, but what it ended up triggering from Luke Shaw. And Cavani was a revelation at his age. So I'm going to put faith that's built up my confidence in the scouting network, the transfer team, what the manager and everybody thinks works from a footballing sense. In terms of how we operate from a business standpoint, I need to see a good summer. But so far, our approach to business this summer has been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It truly has. And what I love is how a week ago, everyone was crying over low balling offers. And I literally saw Man United fans say, oh, Chelsea and City don't do this. And within the space of a week, they've both gone and done exactly the same things. It's the way it should be. Thank you for that super chat. Remember, we are still running the competition this month. The best question posed to me in a show each day, that person, Twisted Bubble went in yesterday, will go into the prize draw to win a football shirt of your choice. Ginger Fury, who actually just super chatted then, won the prize last month along with D1 as well. So keep that coming. We're going to move forward now because we're going to save Arsenal for when Tom gets here. So that's going to come up around 5 o'clock. I do need to share the link with him actually because I haven't sent it through to him yet. We're going to have Tom on from Guna Talk TV at 5 o'clock. I want to speak about the situation with Chelsea. We know Chelsea are looking at striker options. And there's been a number of times this summer where the Haaland was in a very interesting situation. There is no doubt about that. It's in what I would call an interesting situation. There's no doubt about it whatsoever because it's a very difficult deal for Chelsea to do. Not just because it's been reported again today that Dortmund are adamant they're not going to sell Sancho and Haaland in this window together, and they've given their word they will sell Jadon Sancho. That's one thing. Secondly, Chelsea have to look at this from a business standpoint. They truly do. What kind of impact is this going to have upon other signings? What kind of impact is this going to have upon wage structure, squad harmony, etc.? There are reports today that Chelsea have identified Gerard Moreno as a Plan B offer. It says Thomas Tuchel is desperate to sign a striker as the Blues look to launch a Premier League bid next year. Haaland is top of that list. Kane is high on that list, but both appear to be unattainable. It says that Villarreal's Moreno is now also a target and may be seen as a makeshift or go-between before one of the main targets can be landed. Now, from my point of view, he's a good striker. I was looking at his record here. 30 goals in all competitions last season, 20 the year before. He's a good goal scorer. He's in his late 20s. He's experienced. Of course, he's part of the Spanish national side now. Is he world-class? No. Is he a superstar? No. But could he be a player just to come in and fill that void? With Tammy Abraham looking like he's leaving, with Olivier Giroud wanting to go out the door, signing someone like Gerard Moreno, could that be a good makeshift until maybe the summer of 2022, when it is seen as more likely that Chelsea Football Club can get the deal for a Haaland or get the deal for a Harry Kane done, finished, and over the line? Or if you can't land one of those players, Chelsea, would you rather go for a younger, more exciting striker? A Martinez from Inter Milan, who is supposedly on the market. Arsenal, we're going to be talking about later, are looking at Andre Silva. What alternative would you like to see Chelsea go for? I'm genuinely intrigued by your thoughts on this. If you can't get Haaland, who's the target? Who's the player that you would like to see your team go for? I am so intrigued to know. I want to go to some of your comments on this now. Chris says Isak maybe. Like, Isak has impressed a lot of people at this tournament. There is no doubt about it. He has impressed so many people with his performances. We haven't really seen much from Eye Test on here in recent times, but I bet he's absolutely buzzing to see his favorite player in the whole world do bits. Who knows? He could be a genuine candidate to come in and do what it is that he's got to do. I mean, Moreno scoring 23 goals last year. I'm sure that must have made him one of the highest goal scorers in the league last year. There's no doubt. In La Liga. Let's have some more comments here. I want to know what more of you are thinking on this. Jake says Isak as well. Marble Halls TV says Calvert-Lewin and Ben Yedder. Are they linked with who are they linked to? Are you saying as alternatives? Sometimes be a little bit more specific. Let's see what people are saying here. The story is cap. Well, you may not believe that. If you believe it's cap, then you say you think it's rubbish. It's absolutely fair. That's what the football charity is here for you to tell us what you think and feel. It's the news that's circulating. It's what's being spoken about. I still think Chelsea are going to put a big bid in for a top striker this summer. I really do. I really do. I actually think this story is more about putting pressure on Harry Kane, putting pressure on Haaland. I know the reports say that they're both. Well, we know that Harry Kane isn't happy. Reports say that Haaland's really excited about the start of next season and what he could achieve at Dortmund. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. The only thing that's probably against Chelsea is that the reports still suggest that Real Madrid is Haaland's preferred destination. So it does make it a little bit harder. But the question is, and I'm not seeing very many answers come through here, Chelsea fans, if you cannot get Haaland, who would you prefer? Who would you prefer? I really want to know. We're going to share the link now for some of you to call in and have your say. I need to get this link across. Actually, we're going to do that after we've had man like Tom on, because you know what will happen? The back room will get filled up with people and I won't be able to chat to everyone. So we'll just go through some of your live comments between now and then. Make sure that like button is being hit, please, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, he's ready pretty much now. So I've sent in the link through for him to come on and have his say. I'm intrigued to know what he thinks, because Arsenal, there's so much going on with Arsenal right now. Someone here says Damasio or Fabrizio didn't report anything. On what? You've got to be specific, my brother. I don't know what that comment means. And they don't report on every transfer. So explain to me what you mean by that, my friend. Thank you. Jake here says, I want Haaland or Lukaku. Lukaku has really impressed me at the Euros, and I totally get that. Artem here, my guy, says he is a good player, Terry. He can score and create, but he is 29, and I don't know if he can handle the Premier League. If no Haaland or Lukaku, stick with Kai and Timo as striker. And that's also an option, isn't it, Artem? That is also an option. That is also an angle to go down as well. It legitimately is. It legitimately is. Oh, a comment's been put in here saying, here we go again. Oh, okay. It's about, okay. I thought it was something was put into the Football Terrace group chat. And I thought, oh, what's the story now? It's a fantasy league thing. It's literally a fantasy league thing. There we go. We have a super chat that's come in here actually from Andre, who says, Terry, if we can't get Haaland, I'd like Danny Ings. Also, what do you think about Chilwell and Mount situation? I think, honestly, if I speak about the Mason Mount and Chilwell situation, I think I could get in trouble. I think I could legitimately get in. I think I could get in trouble. Because I understand protocol. I understand process. But logically, what they have said doesn't make sense. Yes, they've been seen giving him a hug and being in close quarters with him. But you're telling me that the rest of the England players and the rest of the Scotland players in the changing room weren't that close to each other. There wasn't more handshakes. There wasn't more hugs. There wasn't more celebrating. You're telling me the Scots didn't celebrate. You're telling me that it infuriates me, these types of things, because I think to myself, I understand the protocol. But it almost feels like it's being done, not for Billy Gilmore because he's tested positive, but for the other two, it almost feels procedure for procedure's sake, so it looks good from a PR point of view, public relations point of view. They've been tested as negative. I bet they weren't. My view is I bet they weren't the only ones to be in that close proximity to Billy Gilmore, but because they're the only ones that were seen doing it, they've got to isolate. And that for me, it's not deterring anything, because I think everybody else, the rest of the Scotland players were close to him in the dressing room afterwards, there's no doubt. So by that logic, they should all have to isolate. Now, I don't want that to happen to Scotland because I want them to be able to play tonight and I want them to go through. But it doesn't make any logical sense. And that's probably the best way of me answering it. Otherwise, I will get myself in trouble. It don't make sense. It makes no sense. None. You know? Some of these rules, you break them down to real life practicality. It doesn't make any sense. What about all the players that were grappling with him at corners? Grappling with a player at a corner and the hug? Do you know what? Depends on how passionate that hug is. It can be almost the same thing sometimes. Some people like being thrown around when they're being hugged. Like, what's the difference? I don't get it. I get it from a publicity point of view, a PR perspective. But for me to be bought into this idea, I need a doctor, a qualified doctor to explain it to me, because it just feels like a load of old tosh. Not isolating, not segregating people that have tested positive, but the Mount and the Chilwell thing just feels off to me. Jack Lynch here says, what striker would you sign for Man United? Wow, listen, Haaland first, Harry Kane second. I don't know after that. I've not really thought about it till now. All the others, I think, come with a much bigger risk. I think the Andre Silvas, I think the Martinezes, the Morenos, all these top touted strikers right now, we don't know how they're going to perform. I think Haaland would kill it in the Prem. Legitimately do. Let's do some more of these comments that are coming through here. Terry, your thoughts on Chahalonu? I know how to say it, now I can't say it. Chahalonu. Why can't I say it now? Chahalonu. There we go. Going to Inter Milan. Listen, a bit snaky going from arch rival to arch rival. But listen, it's a good signing for Inter Milan. It's a little bit snaky, though. It's a bit snaky. There's no doubt about it. It's snaky. Let's see some comments here. Say no to Traore. Do you know what's interesting with the Traore situation? Slenge, you've got to make that make sense to me. You've got to make that. What's people's problems with Traore? Adama Traore, what's Chelsea fans' issue with him? Say no to him. What's the issue? I'd love to understand it. He's okay. He's a good filler player, is he not? Like a filler player. He's not the best in the world, but he's a good filler player, I feel. He's a good filler player, I feel. Or am I completely off key with that? Am I off key with that? Get your super chat questions in. Remember, you can become an official member of the Football Terrace as well. A few new concepts coming very, very soon for all those individuals. I'm going to post the link now if you want to become a member. We've posted that in the comment section. Make sure you're retweeting as well. CFC Gem says, you like men with outputs. He's another Zaha. Gem, I hear you. But I've kind of heard that Tuchel wants him at cover at fullback. I think he could do a good job in a covering position. If you were selling Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech and he was linked as the main replacement, I would be saying it as well. And I'm not even a Chelsea fan. But for me, I think he'd do all right as cover, you know. I think he'd do all right as cover. But I might be missing something here. Man like Slens came back because where's he gone? There it is. Says, I don't like the difference in quality between Hakimi and Traore. Well, that's true. There is pure night and day between the two players. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. We have a super chat that's come through here from Jack again. Jack says, I don't understand these rules or UK government guidelines about quarantine and self-isolation. That's why I think this whole pandemic is BS. Well, look, I don't think that I don't think the pandemic is BS. I believe it's a real virus. I believe people were ill. I believe in lots of what's had to happen. But it's where you get these kind of strange rules, if that makes sense, that cause the problem, and it's the logic behind it all. Now, if someone, I don't get the close proximity things when you've just played a game of football with one another. It's like we ignore the close proximity element in certain activities, but not others, you know? And for me, it's more of a case of wanting to understand it as opposed to being dead set against it. And I understand that you can't explain every single scenario, but this is such a public scenario. Maybe explaining this to the country would make people understand dozens and dozens of other situations sort of revolving around this. But it is what it is. They're missing from the game tonight. We will be previewing that a little bit later. Jack Grealish and Saka set to start the game. I'm very, very excited about that. There's no doubt about it. Over 1,000 people tuning in live right now, which is amazing. Do me a favor, though, and hit the like button, and please share this on your social media platforms. Thank you to Sam James for signing up and becoming an official Academy member of the Football Terrace. A massive thank you to you. We really do appreciate that. Slen says, I know Cho is frustrating, but would much rather have him as cover than Traore. I hear you on that. I respect that. I do respect it. With these rumors of United trialing a back five, would you take Traore as wing back? I mean, it's an interesting segue, actually, because, of course, what we've seen today is Diallo linked with the move back. And I think that's because Man United may give up on their pursuit for Kieran Trippier. If we sign Kieran Trippier, Diallo doesn't come in. Would I like Traore as backup for AWB? Depends on the money. Do you remember when City nearly were close to like bidding 70, 80 million pounds for him 2 years ago? Yeah, no, do you know what, Slens? You're convincing me. You're changing my mind live on the air. I don't want him at Man United. Now I'm starting to deep it. I think there are much better options out there. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, brother. I'm with you on that one now. I've bought in. I bought into that. There we go. We're going to get Tom on with us now to have his say. We're going to speak about the latest news of Andre Silva to Arsenal. But on top of Andre Silva to Arsenal, I also want to speak about I think it's something like 727,922 players so far this summer Arsenal have been linked with. Some real, some not so much. We're going to get Tom's views on that. Welcome back to the Terrace, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. How about you?
I can't complain. I am enjoying the Euros. I kind of want the group stages to be over now.
As long as you don't focus on England, you're fine. That's all you need to do, mate, and you're golden.
I hear you on that. So much news going on surrounding Arsenal, though, isn't there, at this moment in time? Linked with a hell of a lot of players, including Andre Silva today, and maybe we can start off with that one in itself. What do you make of the links to players like him, Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, Maddison in the past few days?
It's typical, I suppose, is the right word to use, of Arsenal transfer windows. We tend to get linked to every single player. I think you may have even underrated with the value you put on the number of players that we've been linked to. It's crazy. It was to see Maddison linked, I suppose, Mahrez, and now Andre Silva. The Maddison one is weird because obviously Arsenal tend to go for players that aren't within the UK, especially that type of player. The players that we have signed from Premier League clubs have been the likes of Cedric, David Luiz, Danny Welbeck, players that are typically surplus at their clubs, not players that are playing week in, week out, or really integral members of the teams. And so by going for those types of players, to me, that's an encouraging sign. That tells me that maybe things are changing. And also we've been linked to, as you know, Lokonga from Anderlecht, and a young, promising talent coming through, which has sell-on value, which is another promising sign. But the problem is, Terry, right now, is that a lot of this is words. It's just what's in the media. It's just paper talk. It's just this. And there's no real actions right now. And that's the issue that Arsenal have right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting, really, because I had a troll. I don't know why he did this. He DM'd me today. And he said, he goes, you and Dean Jones trying to make out like you broke the Sterling Mahrez news. we were I think they saw something that Igao had sent to me earlier on in the day, to be fair.
Oh, there you go.
They were like, Eurosport broke this news, I think, the day or two after the Champions League final. And I had to point out to the guy that, yes, and that was Dean Jones's article. It was great. I think because Igao sent it to me, and we spoke. So I think the guy saw Igao's thing and saw it and was trying to troll me. But as you listen to what Dean Jones said today, he just said that it is a lot of what's going on with Arsenal. It isn't bids. It isn't even sort of it isn't even like a preliminary bid or an early bid or a low baller. Generally, it's inquiries. Is the player available? Would they consider Arsenal? And speaking to the agents mainly around, do you think, what kind of deal, what kind of money do you think the club would want? And it's hard for Arsenal because they don't know who they can land due to lack of European football and, of course, competition from other people. It's a lot harder when you are in the league where Arsenal have been the last 2 years to sign some of these stars. And I think James Maddison is a prime example. If he wants to leave Leicester and he wants to go to a bigger club to earn more money, I think he could be attracted to Arsenal. Personally, I do. However, if Liverpool then suddenly come in for him and offer him a similar deal to you, I think that makes it very, very difficult for Arsenal to close that deal off. So, of course, Arsenal have got to now cast their net wide and far, because if you only have one option in each position and you lose a few of them, you're going to end up with a weak squad going into the start of the season. So it's really interesting. How many, though, of these sort of higher name bigger stars, let's say Mahrez, Sterling's of this world, how many do you think you can land a number of them this summer?
It's interesting because, as you say, Arsenal don't have European football this season, which is a big pull for players. So initially, if you think about the centre-back area, Arsenal were linked with Ben White from Brighton. But prior to that, Arsenal were linked with Edmund Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen. They were linked with Jules Koundé from Sevilla. The Athletic reported that they were the two players that were kind of the top of Arsenal's centre-back list. But they've been hit back by the price, and also the fact that Jules Koundé specifically wants to move to a Champions League club, is more interested by a club like Chelsea because they're in the Champions League and have won it last season. And the same kind of applies for the likes of the Mahrez and Sterling's, and say if they were to leave Man City, which I think would be a mistake on their part, but obviously if Pep Guardiola is open to letting them go and they're not going to get enough minutes next season, then you can understand why they would want to leave. But I struggle to see why they would move to Arsenal, especially Mahrez, who's now 30-ish and is reaching kind of those twilight years. He will want to stay at the top of the game as much as feasibly possible. Sterling at 26 as well. You've got a player that's reaching the prime years. You're not guaranteed Champions League football at Arsenal. Why would a move to Arsenal make sense? However, what I would say is that Arsenal still have gone out and signed players in the past, even in the recent past, that have impressed me, like Thomas Partey. I know he had a release clause, but he didn't have to leave Atletico Madrid, who are in the Champions League. You don't have to leave if they pay your buyout clause. You can choose to stay. And so that type of signing is an indication to me that, yes, whilst we're out of Europe and maybe not at the top of our game at this point in time, Arsenal can go out and get some very decent players. But they need to do it quick, and they need to do it before other teams compete with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think Riyad Mahrez and Sterling would be very difficult. Maddison, I think, is doable. Andre Silva, you're linked with today. Again, I think is doable. I actually think the likes of Ben White, good signing. Lokonga, we know that's pretty much done now. I've had 3 different Belgium experts on that have all said, yeah, like they've had very little to say on it other than it's pretty much there. It's going to be done in the next week. Kind of relax a little bit in terms of that. It's the Ruben Neves and Basuma deals are the interesting one. It kind of feels like you'll go for either or either. But all those deals there, the Ben Whites, the Basumas, the Ruben Neves is if a champion. I don't think a Europa League team, but I think if a Champions League team comes in, that's where it can become difficult. Which is why I think Arsenal's tactic of 2 things: one, spreading the net wide and far is important, but also still remaining a level of sort of maintaining a level of ambition. One question I would ask though is this. What's your thoughts on this Emil Smith-Rowe situation right now? New deal not signed as it stands right now.
Yeah.
And I spoke to somebody at the Football Insider because I really wanted to understand sort of the validity around what they know. And they seemed pretty convinced that Villa are going to try and go in again. And Villa's approach is very much, well, Arsenal were trying to sign on these top talented attackers. They're almost trying to show Emil Smith-Rowe that, well, we'll guarantee you first team football. Because if you did land, I'm just throwing names out there. If you were to sign Silva, Mahrez, and Maddison, which is what you're going for, how much game time realistically is Smith-Rowe going to get next season, in your opinion?
Well, of course, Smith-Rowe is by nature in his best position a number 10. So if you go out and you sign a Mahrez, a Sterling, or more wider positions, there is still that option. I also think he's got the backing of Arteta. Arteta loves Smith-Rowe and the club loves Smith-Rowe. And the thing about his kind of desire to stay, and by the way, he didn't grow up an Arsenal fan. He came through the academy, but he didn't grow up one. So there's not necessarily that connection, but he basically values himself as very much part of the Arsenal structure now and has basically taken that on for himself. It's now a situation where Aston Villa look at Arsenal as the target. If you want to, as Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast used a great analogy that of the big 6 teams, if you want to put them in kind of a herd of animals, Arsenal are kind of the deer that's got loose. Aston Villa are like the lion that is now trying to chase down that deer that's come loose. And Arsenal are, because they have fallen out of the pack and we are out of Europe and we are very much in trouble. And so Aston Villa, by going for one of our players, shows that ambition on their part to try and close the gap, to replace us and to be within that group. So I was actually very frustrated when the news came out that we'd received the bid from Villa initially, because a lot of Arsenal fans laughed it off. A lot of Arsenal fans, look how stupid Villa are, look how deluded they are going in for a bid of that much. And I'm thinking, am I the only one sitting here going, I'm sorry, but that's a worrying sign that a club like Aston Villa are trying to go for some of our top players, one of my most prospective players, and that they're going back in, it seems now, to try and get him. That's a worry. And Arsenal do need to bat it away, and they do need to show that strength in the market to say, look, no, you need to back off, and we're going to reject this bid. We're keeping this guy, and we're going to go out and sign players to open that gap once again to ourselves and them and close the gap to those above us.
Yeah, listen, your thoughts on that are exactly mine. Laughing it off, I thought was interesting. We've had a few conspiracy theories presented to us. People saying how they think it's Arsenal that are sort of leaking this news so that when Smith-Rowe signs, they can sort of present it as we're definitely still more attractive and whatnot. And I understand the train of thought in that, but I think that's too much. I understand why you think that, but I think it's too much hard work to do that. And for me, I've learned this over the years, covering so many transfer stories, talking to so many agents, talking to so many journalists like I'm doing this year. There often isn't smoke without fire. And the fact that Villa are looking to put 2 bids in, it's the ambition, but they fancy themselves. And it's the fact they fancy themselves with your players that I would be more concerned with than Smith-Rowe actually leaving. So a lot of Arsenal fans go, he doesn't want to leave. It doesn't matter. I'm like, it does, because you're being... People are looking at you and licking their lips. And that's something you've got to respond to as a football club, both in the transfer market and then again on the football pitch. And You know, one thing I'd say about Smith Rowe and Saka, I've said it all of last season. I think you've got 18 months to start improving as a club, new deal or not. If you don't, and those boys continue to improve and show us their class, they will be gone. They are too good to remain a team in 8th, 9th, 10th, wherever it is in the league that you are. And that isn't meant with any disrespect to Arsenal Football Club. I mean it in a sense of you've created developed these two brilliant young players, one of which is going to, we hear reports, is going to start for England tonight at a major tournament. He's still a teenager, is he not? Is he 19?
19, about to turn 20. Yeah,
starting for England, it'll be one of the youngest players ever to play for England at a major tournament. There's only so long you can keep a player like that if you don't start to improve as a club. So the fact that, so I totally agree with you. I think it is something to worry about, but it's actually looking at your club and how do we respond to this? And yeah, look, do I think he's going to go? I don't think there's a cat's chance in hell that he walks away from Arsenal at this moment in time. But you know what? In a year's time, if he's still improving and Arsenal don't, he might start to think, I know I've just signed a new deal, but who's actually looking at me now? And that would just be in the back of my mind the whole time with that. In relation to the sort of rivals, lots of talk going on with Chelsea at the moment, Man United. Some of it's quite positive. Spurs, though. I want to get your perspective on Spurs, because as bad as things have been for Arsenal, there must be an element of you thinking, what's happened to Tottenham? 18 months ago, the world was saying the power shift has happened, right? Now, honestly, I think Leyton Orient are a better run club. North London, there's some madness going on up there right now. What's your take on Spurs' situation?
Look, it's obviously, when I'm speaking in front of thousands of people about Tottenham Hotspur coming from the perspective of an Arsenal fan, it's very hard to show any kind of credibility without your opinion coming across as very biased. And it probably will. I think that the problem for Spurs is that they have obviously got rid of Jose Mourinho. They drafted in Ryan Mason during that short period. They sacked Mourinho the week before a cup final. I mean, if you're a prospective manager, first of all, and you're thinking about a club that you want to go to think that your job could be in danger the week before you've got your side to a cup final in itself isn't the greatest. The fact that you're now seeing managers like Paulo Fonseca, who, by the way, is a questionable choice, because you're getting the guy you just sacked would have been replacing at Roma. Yeah. To think that he can't come in because of what we're told is financial problems, then if you're a prospective manager looking at that situation going, well, if they can't get Paulo Fonseca, that's also a worry. The other names that are involved, Graham Potter is an interesting one. If I was Spurs, I probably would go for that. I think that's a good step. I think that's the next step for Graham Potter, probably, to go from Brighton to that next level of club. And then you've got others that are completely wild. The Gattuso link, I think that was shut down because of how vehemently the fans were against that idea. And there was very much an influence of that. But it is interesting that they get in Paratici from Juventus, and then the first two coaches they're linked to are both Serie A managers in Fonseca and then Gattuso. And if that's the line that they want to go down, it could be an absolute disaster for them. I will obviously revel in it as an Arsenal fan. Why wouldn't I? Yeah. But it does amuse me. But it is to try and come from a neutral perspective, or come from a Spurs perspective, which is difficult. It would be, and I would be very, very worried if I was a Spurs fan right now.
Yeah, same. I mean, the thing with Arsenal is people can laugh at some of the level of talent you're going for, but you're looking to improve your squad. You know, there is still...
Yeah.
It's in a much better position. So yeah, I wouldn't. 2 years ago, I would have swapped everything to be where Spurs were in terms of ownership, the way they were run, the direction they appear to be going in. But they seem to have. They've been Spursy on the pitch in that time, but they're being Spurs in the boardroom now, no doubt. Man United, we were speaking about today, a bid's gone in, or a bid. They've put in a suggestion to Real Madrid about a swap deal, Rafael Varane for Paul Pogba, which they have said they don't want to do because they're focusing on keeping their money for other targets, Kylian Mbappe, Haaland, and a few others. What's your take on Man United's situation? Because, of course, the Sancho deal, I don't really think the Sancho deal was protruded too much this year. Nobody expected it to be done before the Euros begun. But they're linked with some talented players. There's a lot of good noise coming out that they're moving things along nicely. What's your perspective in terms of what they're doing and how they're operating this summer so far?
I think a lot of the transfer business going on at Man United is very secondary to the managerial situation. But I mean, you've got such a good squad, and you talk about how you said there you would have initially swapped everything to be where Spurs were a while back, and Man United have ironically within that time grown and built a very decent squad, one that is the envy of a lot of clubs like myself and I'm sure plenty of other rivals of yourselves. And if you end up getting someone like Jadon Sancho, that's an amazing sign. It's a very Man United signing, bringing in an England international of that level of quality, something that you would have seen happen back during the Fergie days, of course, bringing in those English kind of talents. If you can get in a Varane to solve that issue, and by the way, Varane is a great player, has his problems, has his faults, and has shown that at Real Madrid, but is on the surface a world-class player still, and has shown that from the time he's been at Real Madrid and France too. Then those key areas are being addressed. But for me, it will fall back on the biggest key area is still that you haven't got the world-class manager in charge. That you've got a manager that's done quite well with what's been available to him. But there was always that kind of quote that surrounded me about what Jose Mourinho said. And I'm sure you're very much aware of it. He said that he got second in the league and won the Europa League and it was a failure. Ole Gunnar Solskjær gets second in the league and loses the Europa League final and it's seen as a success. And I think that's the context of who Solskjær is and the context of who Mourinho is. And you need the context that a manager that's going to come in that's world class, that can take the team to compete with Man City, because you should be. The money that's been spent, the squad that's there, the players that are there, the players that you're linked to, you should be competing with Man City. And yet you're still quite a big points difference off. And that's what needs to change. And I personally, coming from an Arsenal perspective, which people might say is biased, but I come from that perspective and I go, if Man United had that top-class manager, I wouldn't have the hope as an Arsenal fan that there is still a chance that we can close the gap to you. If there was a top-class manager there, I would have much less of a hope. And I am an optimist, but much less of a hope.
We have an invader.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. Is that for me? Oh, thank you. She made me a little picture, and now she's gone. She just handed it to me and run off. Thank you. It's a...
Looks like Spurs.
It's a mess. It's a lizard. It's a lizard with glitter on. So thank you very much, Lady Thrower. I appreciate that. Thank you. She's come in and she literally just threw it at me and ran off. Right, there we go. Sorry? It's a chameleon. Sorry, it's a chameleon. Thank you very, very much, my sweetheart. I'll see you in a little while, okay?
That's on you for not guessing what that was, by the way.
It was a lizard. I'm in trouble. It's a chameleon. Listen, I hear a lot of what you're saying there for me. I'm not an Ollie outer because, as in the name.
It sounded like you were after the cup final.
I've said this for a long time. Yeah. I can't sit with Ollie outers because they have extreme views on things that are weird. Like there's an Ollie outer that I follow who every stream he was on last year would always mention how it's a myth that Ollie wants to promote youth. Doesn't promote youth, doesn't develop youth.
Yeah.
I saw him kicking off in a thread on Twitter the other day because the report is we're not going to sign a CDM because we're going to develop a youth player in that position. And he's getting mental about it. Again, we're scrimping and scraping and we're not... That's why I can't sit with Ollie outers because
you've got to separate yourself though, because I do it with Arsenal as well. Like Arteta outs, there's a lot of characters within the Arsenal fan base that I really disagree with for that sense, and I think for a bit that maybe influenced me into not changing my mind on Ollie. You have to separate yourself and have that own opinion of yours. You know, it's difficult.
Yeah. And my view is just I agree with all their base views that Ollie isn't good enough to win us a major trophy at the club. I agree the football isn't as pretty or as entertaining as I would like it to be, but it's the next level of extremities that there is no... It's these kind of comments. There's no system. And then 5 minutes later, it's Bruno only scores all the goals because the system works to his strength. But I thought there wasn't a system. That's all that annoys me about that sort of the Ollie out group. Equally, the Ollie in group are just as weird. It's as if they're watching a completely different man and football team. And I just think to myself... I look at both groups and I just think I don't like I agree with bits of both of you, but as collective groups, you honestly, it's like watching, you watch like politics now on YouTube and it's like a conservative and a Democrat, but you listen to both of them. It's like, oh, why are you both so polarized and extreme? That's what it's like. And I can't sit with either group because they're just funny really, but it's painful. But I agree with you. The one good thing though, if we get these summer targets this year, we bring in a Varane, we keep Pogba, when we bring in Sancho at long last, a bit of cover at right back, maybe a CDM. I want us to land them for two reasons. One, there's no more excuses for Ollie.
Yeah.
No one can then give him an excuse to not so much not winning the league, because only one person can win it, but you should be there or thereabouts. You should be highly competitive. You shouldn't be getting outclassed 3 or 4 times a year in the Champions League, which kind of happened to us. Is 3 or 4 games where we weren't even in it really. When you look back, we had a few chances, but we didn't dominate at any points. He should have no more excuses. At the same time, if he succeeds, and I'm wrong that he wins us the Prem, you ain't going to see. I'm so happy to be wrong. It's unbelievable. Equally, if it goes wrong and we sack him, the next manager comes into what I don't think Ollie walked into, and I don't think Jose walked into. They actually come into a really good squad. You start looking back at the squads that Jose and even to an extent Ollie inherited, and they weren't particularly great. There was lots of holes and there was lots of problems. And that's why, again, some Ollie outers don't want him to get the players. And I'm thinking, you've got to look beyond the manager and think about the club in terms of we should still want the best players to be here. And just a few have said, I don't want Pogba to stay because I don't basically want Ollie ruining him anymore. And in the same breath, they say he'll be sacked by Christmas. Then you should want Pogba to sign a new deal, because if we then get that world-class manager, Pogba's here. So, yeah, it's a real tough one for us. And I do think you're right that if we have a good summer, the next step is the final question. Ollie, are you now good enough to take this brilliant squad to the next stage? If he isn't, then the club has to look to move him on. Maybe they will. The one thing is, as you've said, the status. I want Ollie to prove me wrong so badly. I want him to step up and become this top-level manager, because he's a club legend, and there is something romantic and beautiful and sentimental about a legend achieving it. But when I'm being honest, in the cold light of day, I don't think it. I think the real difference between me and Ollie Outer is I want Ollie to do it, where I don't think they do. I think for whatever reason they want Ollie to fail. That's the impression they give me, where I believe the same things as them, as in Ollie not being a good enough manager, but I want to be wrong. And I actually think that's the only fundamental difference between the two of us. We're going to take some calls in a minute. We're going to keep Tom on with us if he's got time. We are going to see England as well. We have a super chat. Get your super chat questions in as well, people. Kevin says, Terry, we went from being a great club to being a laughing stock on TikTok. Kev, bruv, I don't know what you could be talking about. Any one of Spurs, Arsenal, or Man United right now, and I don't know who you're speaking of. That's the painful nature. I don't know what club he's talking about in relation to that, Kevin. But so thank you for the super chat, and let us know who you are speaking about. Make sure that like button has been hit. Let's get this past 500 likes while we're live on the air, please, ladies and gentlemen. Please, right. So let's go to our first caller of the day. We're going to change the screen to this one, and we're going to go to who we're going to go to. We're going to go to Paul Roper to have you say, Paul, who do you support, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't.
Do me a favor, Paul. Can you turn your radio down? Otherwise, I'm going to get a copyright strike. Is that all right, mate? They don't like that.
I can't.
All right, so try and sort that out, and I'll get you back on again, mate. Wave when it's worked out, because if I have you on without music playing, I'm getting shut down. It's just going to happen. YouTube don't like it. We're going to go to next one. We're going to get Ziad. Ziad's a Chelsea fan. What you saying, mate? You're linked with Gerard Moreno as a plan B. Oh, Ziad's gone now. So we'll get CFC Ed. I'm having a nightmare. Ed, you're linked with Moreno to Chelsea as a plan B for Haaland. Give me your thoughts.
Yes, Terry, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well.
Look, I think Gerard Moreno, don't get me wrong, he's been a very underrated striker. You know, he got 30 goals, I think it was, last season in La Liga, which is quite impressive. But I kind of get these Morata vibes with him. I'm not really sure what it is. I just don't really feel it. Like, I don't really want him as a short term. Like, just don't feel it, because I just see him as a sort of player that will need 3 or 4 chances to score that goal. And we can't really afford to have that. So for me, I would either look at a young striker like an Isak as a short term, and then when we get Haaland, you put him as a bench player so that he can, if let's say Haaland's not playing, Isak can come in, do a good job, and he's like a more long-term striker, but also could do well next season. Or you get like a Danny Ings, who is Premier League proven and has done it really well consistently the past couple of seasons. at Southampton at a really impressive level, and I think he is ready to take that next step. My only worry with him is those injuries, but it's undoubted he's got the quality.
Yeah, listen, I hear you on that. Thanks very much for calling in, Ed. From your point of view, Tom, who do you feel like if Chelsea can't get Haaland, who would be the perfect replacement?
It's crazy how we're talking about replacement after spending so much on Werner just a season ago, isn't it? But if they can't get Haaland in, ironically, Andre Silva, who Arsenal are being linked to, was the second best striker behind Lewandowski. He was better than Haaland was last season. The amount of goals he was scoring, 28, I think, in the Bundesliga, available for around 36 to 40 million euros, and has been well travelled. Sevilla, AC Milan, and Porto, of course, as well, when he was playing in Portugal. So plenty of experience, and only 25 years of age. It was interesting how Ed talked about Isak as kind of a short-term option, because he is only 21. He's having a good European Championships. He did real well at Real Sociedad last season, and is prospected to do quite well. And of course, you won't have to worry about Dortmund anymore having that kind of buyback clause, because they've bought that out now. But Isak is a good alternative, but I wouldn't look at him as Ed did there as being kind of a short term until you get Haaland. If you go in for Haaland, you need to be looking at that long term. And if you go for Isak, the same thing. You look at them both as players that you get in, and then that is going to be your developmental, your player you stick your money on for the next 5-6 years. Yeah,
there's no way for me Isak joins if they know that you're going to try and sign Haaland again next year. I don't think he's going to take that kind of risk. Next on the show, we're going to get Leaf. Leaf, we need to speak to Leaf first, because he came in here a few times and said he was a Spurs fan. And then he came in here and said he supports both Man United and Spurs at the same time. And that is a faux pas in the world of football. Listen, you can have in some parts of the world, you can have more than one wife. In no parts of the world can you have more than one football team. Leaf, what are you here to say today, mate?
Yeah, so I don't get why Chelsea are not going for Haaland. They can definitely afford 150 million. They have so many sellable players: Ziyech, Callum Hudson-Odoi, so many Zappa Costa, so many on loan, Loftus-Cheek. They can easily raise 200 million and buy Haaland. So I don't know why they should be going for Plan B. They can easily get Haaland. As for Silva to Arsenal, he would be a good fit. But then Aubameyang is already there, and Lacazette has done quite well. And Aubameyang is in a massive contract, so I don't see that happening.
Look, on the Haaland thing, there's two elements. The smallest part of the investment is a transfer fee. It's the 350 odd million pound investment in his salary that is the stumbling block. It's a 500 million pound deal. Chelsea have to weigh that up before they do it. The second element, which is very, very key, is Dortmund have now said 3 times they will not sell Sancho and Haaland in one summer. And they've promised Sancho they'll sell him, of course, for the right amount of money. So Dortmund have tried very, very hard. I know Tom and I have had a lot of discussions about this online a few times. Dortmund have tried very, very hard to remove this image that they're a selling club. I still believe they're a selling club. And they're going to try their hardest to not do it. However, I still think if Chelsea stuck 150 million pound cash on a desk, I'm not trying to make it sound like a Del Boy transaction, but they stuck 150 million pound in front of them, I would give Dortmund nothing. I would even buy a Dortmund shirt and wear it. And I don't wear other people's shirts because I find it cheating. I'll buy a Dortmund shirt and wear it for a week on the channel. Of course, I'll wash it in between days. But because I can't see Dortmund turning that down if they actually do it. But there's a lot to weigh up there for Chelsea.
And another interesting viewpoint is that what's the point keeping Haaland for one more year without Sancho? So you're obviously going to have less assists from the wing. If he's already going to go next year with a release clause of 75 million, it's just like Kane. Why would we keep Kane for another year when he's going to go next year anyway for less? It doesn't make sense.
It's about weighing it up, though, because you've got to look at it from a point of view of, with no Sancho and no Haaland, will they make the Champions League next year? Maybe, maybe not. They keep him and they make the Champions League. They're pretty much leveling out in terms of the money that they're going to make. If they get rid of him and they miss out on the Champions League, they've also got to reinvest that money. And when they sell, if they sell one player for 80, ish and one player for 150, clubs are going to want big money for their players. So they end up spending a lot of that money on players to replenish the squad. And then if they don't work and they don't make the Champions League, it's a hard decision. It's a very, very tough decision to make. But I do get where you're coming from. Leaf, thanks very much for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate it. KJ's here with us now as well. How you doing, Cage?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Feels like I haven't spoke about transfers in a while on this channel. You know what I'm saying? Took a break from it, focus on the Euro vibes and that. You know what? Yeah, I don't think it's a bad move from Chelsea to bring in a Andre Silva as a backup until they get Haaland. I feel like he's a profile of player that, if he proves himself, he'll be very useful. But I don't see him being a character that's like, oh, I must play over Haaland if he comes. I can see him trying to fight with Haaland, and he's not going to carry away from that. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be a good move, and if they do that, they'll be in a good spot because Haaland's not an easy deal to do. So Chelsea fans expected it to happen. Just relax a bit, and it very much could happen, but I don't think it will this summer. Maybe next summer.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that completely. What's your take on, we spoke about Arsenal a bit today. What's your take on sort of Arsenal's situation with the level of player they're linked to at the moment? Some of the names in the last few days, Maddison, Mahrez, Sterling, Andre Silva.
When there was linked to the players from the lower teams, I was very like, okay, they're doing smart deals now. They're doing things to improve their squad. So like the Basumas, the Bendias, Ben White. I'm like, okay, I see where they're going with this one. In terms of the names from the upper echelon, I think James Maddison is a deal that can get done. Hearing that he wants to leave due to him and Rodgers falling out for whatever reason, that's a deal that can get done. Mahrez and Sterling, though, I feel like he's just a level bit too high for them at the moment. I can't see. Oh, sorry, Terry. I can't see them prizing them away from Man City just due to the fact that they've achieved so much in a short amount of space of time that why would they want to leave for a team that's rebuilding and no longer in Europe? But I think that James Maddison is definitely gettable. I think Mahrez and Sterling are the ones that are harder to get.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think it's going to be real interesting summer for them. And again, most of the players they're linked with at the moment are, are on international tournaments or they're on holidays and things like that. So it's all going to be a bit of a delay. And I don't think those players will make decisions yet either. I think they're going to wait for some of the other clubs to see what they're doing and what can transpire from there. I think the Maddison deal, if he wants to stay in England, though, it's a case, if you look at the Champions League teams, who's got space for him? City haven't. He ain't getting it yet. He doesn't start for City. He doesn't start for Man United. He doesn't start for Chelsea. Nowhere they're going to push Mason Mount aside for him, as an example, or Kai Havertz. And then you look at Liverpool. Liverpool's track record of signing good attacking midfielders is 0. So you then start to look down the level. Yes, there's some Europa League teams, but I don't think Spurs are conference. Who's in the Europa League this year? Who made Europa?
It's West Ham and Leicester.
West Ham and Leicester. So if obviously he's at Leicester, if he wants to leave, like West Ham, I know they've got Europa League, but that's a 1-year thing. Spurs are a terrible choice right now. So if he actually wants to leave, you start looking at it, you start breaking it, the process of elimination. And I just think Arsenal could pull that off as long as they pay him right. There's a great opportunity there. Sometimes these kind of deals can just fall, right place, right time can fall into your hands. It will certainly be interesting. We're going to try and get Paul Roper back on to have his say with us now. Paul's back. How you doing, mate?
Hello. I'm all right. I can't speak, but well done to you and you for having the trouble, and I can't speak, but I'm proud of you, and that's it. I'm sorry. I'm going to go now.
Okay, listen, Paul, I appreciate. I get where you're coming from, mate. And listen, I appreciate all your support you give the channel, mate. Not a problem at all. Top man. Thank you very much, big man. Look after yourself. Thank you very, very much indeed. Top man, Paul. Thank you. Nice guy. I see him in the comments for years. There we go. Absolutely. Got a lot of love for Paul in the comments section right now. We're going to go to Grey Wolf Dinner on the show next. Grey Wolf Dinner is a Chelsea fan. What are you saying, mate?
First of all, I wanted to talk about Traore. I think this guy would be a fantastic backup to Hakimi. If we couldn't get Hakimi, I'd be happy with Traore because one of the main things of being a right wing back is being able to beat your man through like a dribble. And if there's one thing Traore is very good at is beating a man. So I actually think he'd do really good at our club if we signed him. That's if we couldn't get Hakimi though.
Yeah. I mean, what's your take on that, Tom? Do you look at? There's a lot of Chelsea fans that don't want Traore. They don't think he's good enough. What's your take? Could he be a good backup in sort of the right hand side and the right channel for Chelsea?
I think I look at Traore as arguably one of the riskiest signings that you could make in the Premier League for kind of one of those players because he's enigmatic. You don't know what you're going to get from him. His kind of final shot is very much questionable. He has got the pace, the speed, the skill, the strength to beat a man, as you were talking about there. I just think for the money that's out there, there are probably other options that are worth going for. And I'm just not sure that the money that it would take to get Traore in would be worth the risk that you're taking to get someone of that kind of mystery and hit and miss about them, I suppose.
Yeah, it's certainly a difficult one. What I find staggering is that Pep Guardiola and Liverpool were looking at him at 70-80 million pounds just a year or so ago. It's amazing what one purple patch of form can do for your price. Do you know what I mean? It's I bet Wolves wish they struck out, that like they sold out then when people, you know what I mean, and didn't hold on to him because they've really. I feel like that way with Jesse Lingard, and I'm sure Gooners feel a bit like that with Joe Willock. I think we all know they perform well and above their ability, and like let's cash in now because they could go all the next season and score 2 goals, and be worth almost nothing. Grey Wolves Dinner, listen, mate, I appreciate all your support on the terrace, mate, and we'll speak to you soon. Top man. Now, gents, tonight, England playing. It's a group decider, but of course we now qualify because we're guaranteed to be one of the top 4 third place teams if we were to lose tonight. Grealish set to start. Saka. What's your thoughts ahead of tonight's game, Tom, in terms of the way England should approach it? Is it one of these games we should go out and try and lay down a marker, blow the cobwebs away from the Scotland game, or is it just a dead rubber that we shouldn't really concern ourselves with?
To be honest, I look at the game more as an opportunity, I suppose, because we are guaranteed to go through no matter where we finish. And I know you should always have the aim to try and win. Is that against Scotland, that kind of double pivot of Phillips and Rice was quite static. It didn't really offer us too much. So if we've got a chance where losing is not the end of the world and we go through and ironically finishing top of the group does put us in that harder situation too, which just makes it even more of an opportunity. Why not try and go for the single pivot? Why not move Phil Foden to more of that central midfield area alongside someone else to really go more attacking? If we're going to give Saka an opportunity, I know a lot of people are laughing off Saka, I get it, but I think that's more down to the quality that England have got rather than Saka's own quality. I think there's a chance to real kind of test and risk some different things, and Saka and Grealish might be that. Kane should still play because if the best chance that we've got, and even coming from an Arsenal perspective, the best chance that England have got of winning the Euros is if they get Kane firing and on full fitness and full form, and so he has to start so that we can try and get him scoring goals again. So it's about experimenting, but as you said, it's not necessarily a dead rubber even though we go through whatever happens. I think it's actually a chance to try something different and to get something working.
Yeah, KJ, how about yourself? I mean, we were all really disappointed after the Scotland game. Chance to sort of develop some confidence ahead of the knockout stages with a good win tonight?
Yeah, I feel like this game should be the one where Gareth Southgate changed the team and be like, right, this is the team I'm going to believe in to go forward and potentially win the tournament. I think what England need now is momentum after it being stopped by Scotland. Now that game's out of the way and it's died down, go win the fans back. Go and show us that you're serious by putting in a good lineup, strong lineup, and also a good performance to go with that. And I feel like if he plays the likes of Jack Grealish, if he plays the likes of Sancho, if he changes that midfield of Rice and Phillips and puts a Bellingham in there or someone else in there to do something different, I feel a lot of England fans will get off his back. But will Southgate do that? We don't know. I can see mass rotation today, and just basically players who are not going to get minutes getting their cap for England in the Euros. And that's all I see, unfortunately.
Yeah, I get that. I think rotation's always key. I don't always feel most tournaments we've been in, we've always had to win this game to go through. So you play your strongest team. It's pressured. Today should be an opportunity to rotate a few, to keep people fresh, because the worst thing can be at a tournament is if you sit on the bench for 2.5 weeks and then suddenly you're needed because of an injury and you're not there. I'd love to see Rashford get some proper minutes tonight to keep himself sort of ticking over. Even if Saka's going to play, Grealish starting, I think he's massively key. Harry Maguire as well. I think we need to. It's a perfect game to test him out, to see what his fitness is like, to see what his ankle is like, because I do think we've missed him a little bit. His ball carrying skills from the back would have been so needed against Scotland, because he almost gives you an extra player in the midfield areas because he can come so far forward with it. We've seen it with Man United many times as well. The Harry Kane thing is so interesting, because I'm someone that thinks he should be dropped. And I know a lot of people have said that we've barely created chances. We haven't worked the ball into the box enough. But I've looked at his approach play and I think it's been awful. I think a lot of the attacks have broken down because he's been poor. In terms of his overall play, hasn't quite been there. The ball's been bouncing off of him and everything else. But I know we're not going to win. I know we know that.
No, that's not the attitude, son.
No, I know we're not likely to win. But at the same time, if we were to have a chance, you do need Harry Kane fire. If Harry Kane could click into form now and suddenly start scoring like he did in the early stages of the World Cup, you beat teams. You look at like Belgium as an example. Their front line is clicking and it's so potent. Teams are scared. I think teams are going to be scared to attack them, because if you leave yourselves open, Eden Hazard, KDB, Lukaku are going to destroy you. Right now, we've had 3 shots on targets in two games and scored 1 goal. No one's scared of our attack. I want us to almost lay a bit of a marker down tonight and say, listen, don't sleep on Grealish, don't sleep on Harry Kane, because they can still beat you up a little bit. And I think we need to do a little bit of that tonight, I think.
It's interesting you talk about how you would take him out, Kane, because I would agree with you if we were talking to this about a season, about club form, because you do take your players out if they're playing badly, etc., try and give them that break and make something else work. But we don't have that luxury in a tournament competition, especially when we're in the last game of the group now. And that's why I think it's so important to see Kane play again, because the only way that we're going to get the best from him is if he is playing. I don't think giving him a rest or giving him a game off is necessarily going to see him come in the round of 16 and suddenly smash it. It's only going to come from if he scores a goal, get that confidence up and kind of rejig himself to get back into the form that he needs to be in for us to be as potent as we can be.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, to be absolutely honest with you.
I'm on the opposite side of it. It doesn't rely on Harry Kane. I don't think England's success doesn't rely on Harry Kane, because we've seen it many times this tournament that it's about the team. It's about the collective. And if Harry Kane's not the one doing it, but just say, for instance, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the one who ends up coming in and starts scoring goals, why should Harry Kane come back into the team if that's what's working? International tournament football, I feel like, relies more on the team and cohesion than it necessarily does individuals. So I'm a person that if it works, I'm okay with Harry Kane not being in the team.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what it is with both of these trains of thought? They're both sound in logic, because if Harry Kane isn't in the team and we're winning, no one's going to care. The same as if Harry Kane stays in the team, we start winning, no one's going to care. It's if you do either of those things and there's no change. And we see that at club level a lot, where we say, I know we've all done it with our clubs. For years, Man United fans said, if we just get rid of Fellaini, we'll improve. Hello. We're still here moaning about where we are, right? I remember how many times have Arsenal had scapegoats in the last 5-6 years?
Oh, I've lost count. I've lost count.
Exactly. And all these people, the Wengers and the Ozils and that, they've all been removed, and Arsenal still are where they are. And I think that's the issue you've got. If Calvert-Lewin comes in, say for this game, does okay, and they keep him in again for the last 16, doesn't score, we go out, there'll be an inquest into, well, Harry Kane should have started. It's, what I mean, everything's easy with hindsight, I suppose, when you look back and say, well, we were right to keep him in or not. And only time's going to tell. And I suppose that's why Southgate earns the big bucks, doesn't he? Because he gets paid to actually make these decisions rather than talking about them on the internet, sitting in our spare rooms and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them. A few people asking why Saka is trending. Because Saka is due to start tonight for England in a couple of hours' time. I assume that's why he's trending, to be honest with you. I'm excited to see him play, to be fair. Comment here from Lone Tricks. Says, I have a feeling that we are going to play 5-2-3 with Saka as the right wing-back, Maguire in a centre-back 3, and Grealish on the left of a front 3. That could work. I mean, that could work for England, though. It might be the balance that we need. It just it'd be intriguing to see. The great thing with Saka is he can play about 3-4 positions very well, can't he?
Yeah, I think with Saka, you look at a player there that's been brought into the team for that exact fact. Like when we're thinking about, is he going to get in over Mason Greenwood? Which one of those two is going to get picked? Of course, in the end, Greenwood's injury knocked him out. But if it was a straight shot between those two anyway, I think Saka probably would have got in down to his versatility, down to the fact he can play those multiple positions. And I just look at the England squad, and I actually think with the players that are there, we do kind of suit better playing for the back 3 with Walker playing that right back, kind of right centre back position. We've got so many right backs anyway that you've got enough to play that right wing back. But I like Saka on the left of that left wing back playing behind Grealish, because then you've got a player that's 2 different opposite footed players that can invert. You've got the overlaps going on, using the channels correctly. And I do think that actually the squad that we've selected suits kind of us playing with a back 3. And it is a successful system because, I mean, it's what Chelsea won the Champions League with, of course. So it can win your tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris here says, I would play Kane tonight. I don't think he's had much service in the last game. Play Grealish as the 10. Give him the license to move around. Listen, trust me, even though I've said that I would drop him, I want Kane to score as much as any other England fan out there, because it's so imperative to us for that to happen. Terry, Ollie out because Ollie's not good enough to win big trophies, nothing else. I know we spoke about that earlier. No, I agree with you, Neil. I agree. It's the first time I spoke about Ollie in a long time. It felt kind of weird.
It feels real good not speaking about it. I'm just enjoying it.
Well, there isn't. Do you know what it is? This time of the season or the football year, there isn't any point, because where's the mileage? We all said what we said at the end of the season. Nothing can change between now and then. If he gets, let's say we make bad signings and sell some good players, my expectations for Ollie change compared to if we keep our good players and we buy quality. There's nothing else to focus on about. Do you get what I mean? There's nothing to say, but it was the conversation was almost, it was relevant to what we were speaking about a little bit earlier. This Deshane says Saka plays everywhere. He kind of does, and I like him on the right hand side of the attack. To be fair, I think that's where, when I've watched him, that's where I think he's been at his best. To take a few more calls here, we're going to go to Ellie. Ellie's with us now. What are you saying, mate?
Hi, Terry.
Hi, mate.
I just want to say Sancho has to start tonight. He has to. He destroyed the Bundesliga last season, and for him not to play a single minute, that's like not good enough.
That's fine, because when he's fully fit for Leeds in the start of the season, United fans will be happy, isn't it?
Well, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I don't care about United right now. But look, seriously, I don't even think if we don't win the game, I don't care about the game really, because if we don't win the game, we get the easier round of 16. And that's where everyone is looking. But the problem is, after the round of 16, we might play France in the quarterfinals. So
yeah. Do you know what it is though? I hear you. But at some point at this tournament, we're going to have to play a big boy. I don't care whether it's the last 16, quarterfinal, semi-final. Let's just get it on. Playing France in the quarters, the last 16, the quarters, the semi, or the final. In my heart of hearts, I know the same. If I'm a betting man, I'm betting on France. So it's painful going out in the last 16 than it is a semi-final or a final. So let's just get it done. And who knows, maybe we can shock the world and open the tournament up. And I know everyone will laugh and go, no, you can't beat France. Acting like there's never been a shock at a major tournament before. So listen, I want to win the group. I want us to go into the next round feeling more confident, because if we lose tonight and get beaten, it's far more embarrassing getting beat tonight and then going out to a lesser team. Getting beat by France, you can't be laughed at for that. I'd rather play France and be knocked out.
They're a better team, of course.
and
The thing is, I don't trust Southgate.
and go out or scrape it through. You actually get more banter for that. As a nation, I want us to win well tonight and then go and play well against France. And who knows what can happen in that game. But we'll see what happens. I think we get the team that comes second. I think France are going to beat Portugal anyway. So it's more likely to be Germany, I think, than France. But we'll see. Ellie, top man, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. Appreciate all your support. Chris is back here with a comment where he says, I would give Ollie one more season and he needs to win something decent next year. I hope he does, but I don't think he will. Hope you're all well. I'm good. I'm sure the boys are good as well. And Chris, thank you very much for that super chat. What's your score predictions for tonight, Tom?
Weirdly, I think we might go out and actually do quite well, which will be ironic considering how poor it's been so far. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win, surprisingly. Always the optimist, of course.
3-0 win. How about yourself, Cage?
I'm just going to say a standard 1-0. Always that distrust with Southgate and how he wants to play football. So I can't see it changing massively to us start scoring like 3 goals in this tournament. It'll just be a standard 1-0 win.
1-0 win. Do you know what? Ever the optimist for me. I'm going 5. No, I'm not really. I'm going to say 2-0. 2-0 to England. Another clean sheet, which is something to build on. I think England can bring it home, bring a nice win home tonight. If England win, you win the group. If England draw, you get second. If England lose 2-0 and Scotland win 2-0, you finish third behind Scotland and England fans. Behind Scotland, and England fans will see that as an embarrassment. Yeah, do you know what it is? Another reason I want the hardest route possible is just because if England get in the next round, anyone other than Germany or France, us winning won't matter. Us winning, well, you should have won though, shouldn't you? Like there'll be no. We got to a semi-final last year, and everyone acted like it was, we didn't play anyone hard. So I want the hard teams because if we are to do something at this tournament, I want no excuses. I just want everyone. I want to be able, if we were to do well, to sit back and say, now what you got to say. So I want the hardest route possible because it just shuts everyone up. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'd love. That's part of what football is. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. Having said that, if we got the easiest teams possible in every round and won it, I'm still going to celebrate and sing it's coming home forever. Do you know what I mean? It's nearly 60 years of hurt. It's nearly 60 years of hurt. Thank you very much for that super chat. That means a great deal to us. Everyone who's tuned in today, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you that has tuned in today. It means a great deal to us. We're back live after England against the Czech Republic. And, of course, Scotland tonight as well. Just quickly on Scotland, do any of you see them pulling off a madness tonight?
No.
But
the moment we say that, the Scotland judge is going to kick in and they're going to win like 2-0 or something ridiculous.
Listen, but they've got their 0-0 trophy out of this. They've got their 0-0 trophy. They've been polishing it now for like 4 or 5 days. So it's a great tournament for them. Do you know what I mean? They drew with England. That to them is winning. So
listen, I don't care. If their man got knocked out, I don't care what you say about England. Yeah, I'm shading them. I'm giving them shade, bro. All that gas and 0-0 over to get knocked out by old man Croatia.
Listen, everyone that has tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. We're back later. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell notification button, but also smash that like button before you leave.